Ryan Glover. This video is about Rolls-Royce. They've created a one-of-a-kind car in honor of the 60th anniversary of the James Bond movie Goldfinger. As a number of gadgets that would be the envy of Q, I'm sure. Rolls-Royce is an incredible company, and I think that a little bit about the history of the company is that in 1904, Charles Rolls and Henry Royce partnered to form a car manufacturing business in Manchester. Royce was the engineer who built his first car in 1904, and Rolls was a businessman with financial backing. They hit it off and had an early success. The two men's first models were unveiled at the Paris Salon in 1904 and were a huge success. The company was incorporated as Rolls-Royce Limited in 1906. The Silver Ghost, the company's six-cylinder 40-50 HP automobile, later known as the Silver Ghost, was produced from 1907 to 1925. The British Motoring Press called it the best car in the world. During World War I, Rolls-Royce began manufacturing aero engines. In 1940, the company started jointly developing jet engines, which went into production in 1944. In 2023, Rolls-Royce sold 6,032 cars, setting an all-time sales record. Although Rolls-Royce cars are featured in a dozen James Bond films, the new Phantom Goldfinger is inspired by the 1937 Rolls-Royce Phantom III Sedan DeVille, which played a pivotal role in the 1964 Sean Connery film and remains an enduring muse to the brand, according to the luxury British car company. I don't know who you guys think is Bond, but I'm going to go with my Bond is Sean Connery. I think that's the only Bond that there is. Let me know in the comments if you guys have a favorite Bond. I know some people weigh on Pierce Brosnan, but for me it's Sean Connery for sure. For this new vehicle's owner, and spoiler alert, there's an owner already, is a gold standard all the way. The project took 3 years to complete, said Rolls-Royce. And unsurprisingly, this Bond-worthy car is full of a number of gadgets, many of which are obviously gold. There's a gold golf club fitted to the lid of the trunk that references 007 and villain Auric Goldfinger's first encounter on the golf course. Meanwhile, picnic tables include a fictional map of Fort Knox Bullion Reserve in 22-karat gold inlay. And there's a three-dimensional steel and gold gallery that incorporates a map of Switzerland's Furka Pass, a lead key location in the movie. These are some pretty interesting details which play into the if you know movie references that Nick Rhodes, bespoke designer at Rolls-Royce Motor Cars, said he wanted to hide throughout the car like Easter eggs. Bond buffs will know that in the movie in question, the Tyler villain's Phantom car transports gold bullion concealed in the doors and inside its bodywork. We love the idea of hidden gold concealed in plain sight and developed a variety of details that incorporate 18 and 24 karat gold, Rhodes told CNN on Wednesday, from a gold-plated Spirit of Ecstasy figurine that appears to be shedding its silver surface layer to a solid 18 karat gold bar shaped as Phantom in miniature, placed in a specially engineered vault in the central console. Although the client's identity remains a mystery, they are a car collector and James Bond enthusiast, according to Georgina Cox, head of global product communication for Rolls-Royce. The cars are hand-built at Godwood, Southern England, and the client was given the honor of pushing the button that sent the vehicle off to be painted in the familiar two-tone yellow and black. Fancy getting your hands on a similar bespoke car? While it certainly won't be cheap, Rolls-Royce wouldn't comment on exactly how much the project costs, but people are speculating on the internet that the car was sold for approximately $6 million. That's a bit pricey for me, but really cool, especially, the yellow paint is the same that's applied to Auric's 1937 Phantom III Sedan DeVille, and the leather interior is of a similar blue hue. More gold is found by way of a sole 18-karat Speedform model displayed in the center console. The precious metal also features on the door's steel tread plates designed to look like gold bars. So, this is a really fancy vehicle, and I'm sure the owner is very happy, especially if they're a fan of James Bond. I feel what better way to commemorate it with a one of a kind, that's really F you money. I think people who are able to indulge in these luxury items and stuff, they really have it's a blessing, I think. And I think like hopefully like one day like I would love to have a Rolls Royce Phantom like one of a kind edition of Phantom Goldfinger. And I think that brings to mind some of the criticisms of the Rolls Royce Phantom, and the most foremost that comes to mind is the price. I feel obviously with like the Phantom just in general, but like with the Goldfinger inspired Phantom, one of the main criticisms would be the price, because the average person can't afford it. It costs more than a house that the average person here in the U.S. could afford. I think like that it shouts like a degree of opulence, almost like where you're waving your finger at like the hands of people like who are workers. The average worker can't obviously afford that. Like, people who are living in the streets here. We have like, high degree of homelessness right now in the United States. It's like this is something that is really necessary. And when you see that, does it make you feel a certain way? Like, people spending like, outrageous prices on like these luxury vehicles. I mean, I think like the size is also a fair criticism. Like, this is a bulky vehicle, and it's not very sporty. I think like like the Lamborghini Aventor, or like like even like the Teslas, like those cars like seem a little bit more sporty. The Phantom like is expensive and it's big. It's isn't sporty or fun to drive in the traditional sense. The steering ratio is slow, but it's designed to be deliberate and accurate. And it's also not very eco-friendly if you care about the environment. I do care about the environment. I think the environment's very important. And obviously, having a gas guzzler like a Rolls-Royce Phantom, it doesn't come with a chauffeur for its huge price tag. Can you imagine that? I imagine like Diddy, who was in jail, like being driven around by Farnsworth Bentley, and this is just something like that you're gonna have to get on your own, which is an added cost. And obviously, like though, if you're a person who can afford like a vehicle like this, like that's probably not something that you're worried about. But the technology isn't very impressive either. Similar to what you find in a BMW 3 Series, it doesn't have any flashy tech like 3D screens or augmented reality head-up displays. I think like a Tesla would be a much better buy in that area. Like and I think like it does have like a level of opulence, because I think like when I think of James Bond, I think about classiness, I think about refinement, and looking at like the Goldfinger inspired Phantom, I think like that a person who had this vehicle was a classy person. I think like only a person like who understood refinement and elegance and style would purchase one of these vehicles, but it still like is a little bit overpriced. And I think like that makes me wonder, like, would you buy, like, this Rolls Royce Phantom if you could, the Goldfinger, one of one? Um, are you a fan of James Bond? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think about this video. And if you have any, like, vehicles that you'd also like me to do a video on, let me know. I think this is a fascinating release in the 119-year history of Rolls-Royce, the Goldfinger, James Bond's Rolls-Royce. And can you think of any other like vehicles like that you would like to see release, like one of one vehicles, like based on the anniversaries of movies? I could think of some off the top of my head. Maybe Gone in 60 Seconds. Like that was a really great car movie. Fast and the Furious. You know, the list could go on and on. I think it would really be great for like some of the automakers to pick up on like this concept. And they have a storied history. Rolls Royce. The first Rolls Royce only had 10 horsepower. Can you believe that? So they've come a long way. The Royce's first creation was made its debut in 1904. It had a 1.8 liter two cylinder that delivered 10 horsepower. The aptly named Royce 10 featured a 3-bearing crank and twin camshafts that actuated the side exhaust and overhead valves to get everything hauling. That mill was mated to a 3-speed manual transmission. I think that what Rolls-Royce has been able to accomplish in its 119-year history shows the power of innovation, and you have to give a salute to them. Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share this video and let me know what you think.